Gishkan Mokibe Shlam Ana ibn Fred Elieh, Qabulim Shena, Rekulim Neumti, Al Khurzet Mesopotamian Night. Hamashat li danot minta min preskhizvet atur AMB satellites qad adana yuwana qatan akhunan etuman lele minan ashapta inam khat ala tabe minan shabt bitayla sasa bishqal min kulli gashqani qad khurzet da shabta bid maqdrach laqato khun bilishan English. Dear guests, I'd like to first of all thank you for joining us on the Mesopotamian Night program. My guest today is a pianist, and she is joining our program for the first time, although has participated in some related activities. But Ms. Elena Akopova is joining us this evening to talk to us a little bit about her musical career and her debut performance at Mesopotamian Night, which is scheduled to be performed on Friday, August 19th at the California Theater in San Jose. Elena, first of all, I wanted to thank you for coming in today and giving us some of your time to talk about how you became involved with the Mesopotamian Night project. But what I want to start with is really, I'm more interested right now in your musical background and how you started, and if you could let the viewers know how you got involved in music.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me today. It's very nice to be a part of the program.
Sure.
Well, myself, I'm from Russia, from the city of Krasnodar. I'm 100% Assyrian, and hey, hey, I'm coming from the family of Bityaku. It's an Assyrian version of my last name. So my father, since very childhood, encouraged me to study music because himself, he played trumpet when he was young. My grandfather taught himself to play several musical instruments. My grandfather's brother was a conductor of the military band during World War II. So we have this love for music in the family, and it was passed to me. So I dedicated my life studying piano and studying music since then, and I studied in the music school, music college, music conservatory in Russia, and then entered music school in San Francisco Conservatory.
Elena, when was the first time you actually saw or touched a piano? Because that is your passion, right?
Yeah, I was very lucky to have piano in the house because my grandma made this gift for her grandkids. So that's how I discovered this. I think it was the age of 3. I first time played the favorite tunes from Russian cartoons. And I just taught myself how to play, and I was playing both hands before I went to music school.
Wow, that's great. You said you're from Russia, specifically from Krasnodar. Can you tell us, for those viewers that may not know, what is the Assyrian community like there? Is there a lot of Assyrians? Is it mixed, or?
Well, Assyrian community in my Krasnodar region is very active.
Wow.
We have around 3,000 people in the whole region, and we have an Assyrian cultural national organization called Hayata, and the organizer is Elieh. He's the head of Assyrian cultural life in the city, and he brings community together through several events happening there. First of all, we recently built an Assyrian Church of the East, which gathers the Assyrian community. Then we have annual Habnisan celebration. And then in the little village of Urmi, you may have heard about it. Little village of Urmi, we have a high concentration of Assyrian people and annual events like Hubba Festival, which brings together Assyrian soccer teams, and we celebrate with picnics, with dances, with all these beautiful events happening. Recently, we started having Assyrian children's summer camp, which brings together Assyrian kids from all over Russia.
Wow.
Where they learn about Assyrian culture, history, language, and just get to know each other.
That's so
we have a lot of events bringing Assyrian community together.
Wonderful. Let's get back to your musical because I'm very interested. So just to kind of give the audience a perspective, who are some of your favorite composers or favorite pieces? And do you also compose music? Do you have your own songs that you write or arrange or things like that?
Okay. As for my favorite composers, I'm really fascinated with German and French music, and of course some Russian. If I have to choose few composers, my favorite composer would be Johann Sebastian Bach. I think he's a genius who is just speaks truth so clearly.
Sure.
He's
Through
a
his
genius.
music, yes.
Yeah, and Franz Schubert.
Schubert.
I like his transitionary element from classical to romantic transition.
Sure.
He beautifully transitions to romanticism, and it's
Sure.
very precious to me. And French music would be Ravel and Debussy. Their harmonies are like perfume. I really, really appreciate that style.
Fantastic. And Elena, how about some of your own material? Do you ever sit down and say, you know what, I like this melody, I'm going to develop it into whether it's a sonata, whether it's, do you compose music?
I do. I composed a lot when I was a little kid. It was just coming out of me. Then I stopped. And then when I got to know all these masterpieces and learned to appreciate real classical
Right.
music, I compared myself and backed up from composing. So comparing wasn't a good thing. So
Sure.
I kind of shut down in me.
Sure.
Comparing with the genius composers is not a good thing. So
Yes.
now I feel more inspired. Actually, I'm coming back to that idea. And I have a couple projects I started, so maybe one day I'll surprise you.
Fantastic. To our viewers, Elena will be performing at the 9th Annual Mesopotamian Night events, scheduled once again August 19th, Friday. And so this will be her debut. Elena, I'm curious also to know, when was the first time you heard of the Mesopotamian Nights events or the Assyrian Aid Society? How did you hear about this?
Okay. First time I was involved when I was invited to perform at the Narcisse Taste of
Yes,
Mediterranean.
yes.
So this was my first performance within the organization, and I met with Mona Malik, and she invited me last year as a guest, and that's where we met.
Yes,
And
that's correct.
we discussed this possibility of me performing and being involved in Mesopotamian Night events
Very
this
nice,
year.
very nice. And speaking of that, so you were involved now for the first time, right?
Yes.
With the choir, obviously assisting with being the accompanist, being a teacher. How would you say that experience has been this year?
It's a wonderful experience. First of all, it's a pleasure to work with you and Kasha
Thank you,
Shmuel. I
likewise.
think you're doing an amazing job.
Thank
and
you.
I'm really impressed with our chorus. I
Yes.
think our chorus is doing something unbelievable. Most of them are not professionally trained musicians.
Absolutely.
But their ability to learn this music, these complicated parts, is just fascinating.
Absolutely. I try to tell, whenever the opportunity lends itself, I try to let people know that these are, at the end of the day, volunteers. And some of the compositions, that we are performing this year really require
Yes.
professional level,
Absolutely.
caliber type vocalists. Yet we are able to achieve
Absolutely.
very close to that because I think they are driven, and at the same time, obviously, they have great teachers such as yourself, Reverend Khangyali, to educate them and teach them how to sing correctly. And so I think our audience is going to be pleasantly surprised by the performance on the 19th. Elena, would you say, and I'm not saying just because you are involved in Mesopotamian Night, but overall, would you say you are now more involved in the Assyrian community in this area, in the San Jose area? Do you find now that you gravitate more towards Assyrian events and Assyrians in general?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I have to say that being Assyrian from Russia, studying European culture, art, and music, and moving to California, the most liberal state in the country, my sense of identity is really messed up, I have to say.
Sure.
And naturally, I gravitate towards Russians and Eastern Europeans for friendships. But being involved in this event brings me back to my roots, to my people, and it's very inspiring to me.
That's fantastic. I know you have a lot of fans in the choir. As a matter of fact, in one of the first practices, I think we introduced you, and I think after they got a sense of your musical knowledge and your approach on teaching, you won over almost everyone in the choir. So
Nice to
you have
hear.
a very unique approach, and I thank you for that. And speaking of that, so teaching, right, piano specifically, is something you actually do professionally, right? My point is, you have students and you teach them, you perform at events, whether as an accompanist or as a solo performer. And so I wanted to kind of know a little bit about the teaching. So in case there's some viewers, as a matter of fact, we're going to put your email address if it's not an issue, so that those individuals that either want to learn to play the piano themselves or for their kids can actually contact you. Can you tell us a little bit about that, how your teaching program is, from
Sure.
what age to what age?
Yeah, I'm a member of Music Teachers Association of California since 2010.
Very nice.
And I do teach piano professionally in my studio in Sunnyvale, and I do teach in Pacific Music Academy in San Jose. I collaborate with local musicians, play chamber music, and accompany singers when opportunity comes.
Very nice.
And also, I'm a chair. Recently, I became a chair of the Autumn Music Festival in Palo Alto. So we're organizing this stage for talented kids to perform.
It's beautiful.
Yeah,
Very
it's a
nice.
wonderful event, annual event.
Elena, before we go, I'd like to first of all thank you once again. I think it's going to be an honor for us to obviously hear you play. I do want to leave the guests with a little taste of what it is you're playing. Obviously, we're not going to play anything, but if you could just let them know a little bit about the piece and a little bit history behind it.
Sure. I spoke with my very good friend and composer Elieh, who wrote the piece. And the piece is called In the Palace of Ashurbanipal.
Very good.
And we're good friends, and I was sharing with him my pain and struggle as being Assyrian,
Sure.
what it means to be Assyrian, how painful it is to see how our cultural heritage being destructed with all the reason, ISIS activities.
Sure.
And sharing this with him triggered this idea to compose a piece, and he wanted to dedicate it to Assyrian people. At the same exact time, I was contacted by Berkeley University to perform in the framework of the event called Pop-Up Palmyra, Art in Response of the Destruction of the Cultural Heritage in the Middle East. And that idea was a perfect art in response. So I contacted Elieh again and said, there is an opportunity for us. And he immediately started writing the piece.
Wow.
And I did perform it in Berkeley and got a lot of emotional feedback from the audience.
That's great. Fantastic. First of all, thank you again for joining us. We're going to go to a clip, and for those viewers that actually want to see Elena live, she will be performing at the 9th Annual Mesopotamian Night event, August 19th, here in San Jose at the California Theater. And we are going to leave the audience now with a small piece of Elena Akopova playing the piano. Gishkana moge peshiton amman barda khakrita zul shiklet Elena Akopova qasama de tset khurzan basima raba.
Thank you very much for having
Thank
me
you.
too. Thank you.